Usually on blogging Theology, it's a great pleasure for me to talk about the Abrahamic faiths. But on this occasion, there has been some truly shocking news about faith that I just wanted to comment on. You're probably aware that an independent report on sexual abuse in the French Roman Catholic Church says over 300,000 children have been victims of church sexual abuse just since the 1950s. In a second, I'm going to just show you a very short interview on French television. It's the English language version of France 24, which discusses some of these details. The BBC on its own website today, just 3 hours ago, has an article headlined "French Church Abuse, 216,000 children were victims of clergy abuse," according to an inquiry. Most of these are boys, the article says, and these were sexually abused by clergy in the French Catholic Church since the 1950s. The head of the inquiry, according to the BBC, said there were at least 2,900 to 3,200 abusers, and these are Roman Catholic priests, of course, and accused the church of a cruel indifference towards the victims. Pope Francis, quote, felt pain on hearing about the inquiry's finding, a Vatican statement said. One of those abused said that it was time the church reassess its actions. The inquiry found, this was headed by a senior French civil service, completely independent, but the inquiry found that the number of children abused in France, this is just France alone, could rise to 330,000 when taking into account abuses committed by lay members of the church, such as teachers in Catholic schools. This is truly shocking, and what we're dealing here with is just almost on a massive scale, just in France alone. But of course, we have been hearing of similar crimes committed all over the world, in the United States, in Britain, in South America, in Australia. It seems to be wherever the church has a presence in the world, it abuses children on a huge scale. So this is just the latest scandal to break, if you like. Why? The question is, what is the root cause of this? Why is the church so involved in raping children? I mean, it's just a bizarre situation. Various suggestions have been offered, and I think they have credibility. Partly the emphasis on celibacy. In the Roman Catholic, all Catholic clergy have to be celibate unless they have special dispensation from Rome. And it's an all-male priesthood, and it's quite secretive, and they have access to children, of course. And this raises questions, really. I know Muslims and Jews and others would question this emphasis on compulsory celibacy. If people are not able to have normal, healthy relations with the opposite sex, then you're going to have perverted behaviour coming about in the mind, and it'll manifest itself in behaviour. And there's even the Quran in one passage condemns monasticism, which of course is a celibate order where monks or nuns live in celibate lives. It condemns that as not being authorized by God. This is not something that was permitted by God at all. So monasticism, celibacy may have something to do. There's also a kind of a gay subculture, which is acknowledged even now by the Vatican to exist in the Vatican. And it's certainly true that a hugely disproportionate number of clergy, Roman Catholic clergy, are gay. I mentioned that because most of the victims of this abuse have, of course, been boys, not girls. So this is very, very shocking, and some commentators have said that this is the worst crisis facing the Catholic Church for 500 years, and this may well be true. And of course, 500 years ago, you had the Reformation, and huge chunks of the church split away from Rome. In England here, Henry VIII famously declared independence from Rome, although he was still very Catholic. The Pope was no longer permitted to have any jurisdiction. And in other countries, you had breakaway sects, Protestants and so on. And then you have the French Revolution in 1789, which threw off the state dominance of the church and the monarchy, which were fused together in some way. So there have been attempts to revolt against the church, but this is certainly at least as serious. It's quite staggering the extent. Even in France alone, over 1/3 of a million children have been sexually abused by thousands of Roman Catholic priests. It's the same in America. It's the same everywhere. So I just want to play you now this short video, which is on France 24, the English language channel of the French government, interviewing a reporter from Reuters who has monitored this situation back to the early days when just 1 or 2 priests were suspected of abusing children. He gives his view on the root causes of this, and I think he's right in what he says. But this is truly, truly shocking. And I think the church surely can't just continue business as usual, saying, oh, well, we'll have another inquiry or we'll put safeguards into place. There seems to be something systemic, structural, fundamental causing this. And these fundamental questions, of course, are not being asked by the church because they would involve changing the church, not just having more inquiries and safeguarding, but actually looking at the way it's structured, the kind of people who become priests, just men, never married or not married. There seems to be something there that needs to be addressed, which is not being addressed, and maybe never will be addressed. I don't know. But here we are. Here's the video. Until next time.
Well, first of all, the numbers are tragic, and they're very painful, and they're very shocking. Nevertheless, they're the same as what we've seen in the United States, in Australia, in Germany, and many other countries. I think what we're seeing is that clergy sexual abuse in the Catholic Church is all over the world, is present wherever the Catholic Church has a presence.
Why is that, do you think? What might the root causes of this abuse be?
Well, it's a very good question, and I think part of it is in the fundamental structure of the Catholic Church. The clergy is an all-male secret society, and that in and of itself invites all kinds of problems. The Church has also been very reluctant to address the issue over the decades. Furthermore, the clergy has no women, of course. And I think all of these add up to a problem and a cause of clergy sex abuse.
Your research, your work in this with the Spotlight team was over 20 years ago. This report's coming out in France today. Why so long?
Well, usually it takes a particular scandal to trigger an investigation. It takes, most important of all, it takes victims who are willing to step forward to tell their stories, even though that's a very painful process, and to demand that someone take action. It's the same in every country. And at the Spotlight team in Boston 20 years ago, we started investigating one priest, one. And we soon learned that there might be a half a dozen, and we were just honestly blown away by that possibility. Soon we learned and reported there were 70. And today, in the Boston Archdiocese alone, that number is 250. It is the same all over the world. It's the same wherever the Catholic Church has a presence.
And do we also see what you saw again in Boston, this shuffling around of predator priests, this cover-up at a higher level in other countries?
Yes, the pattern of cover-up is the same. The depravity is the same, the criminality is the same, and the cover-up is the same.